Hey, Bigpod.
Hey,
A new game came out last week.
really?
It's so exciting that it encouraged me to run off to Walmart, which is a store I haven't visited in like 4 years. Because it's like 70 miles away from my location. And I spent $580 there. I bought two things. You want to guess what they are?
Let me guess, a controller and a PlayStation.
No, I bought the PlayStation because PlayStation came with the controller, and I
Really?
bought Monster Hunter.
Really? They
Yes.
give you that?
Yeah, it comes with the controller, but it did not come with the HDMI cable.
Cue the music.
Hey guys, welcome to No Talks Allowed. I am your host Josh, and I am joined today by my non-Monster Hunter playing friend, Bigpod.
Hello.
Now, of course, there's no Talks Allowed here, so we're going to hijack this entire show. We're going to be talking about Monster Hunter because that's basically all I've done the past week is sleep, eat, work, hunt monsters.
Really?
Yeah. Now, as for like the dragons that I referred to on last week's episode, that was me being stuck at work because my workplace is cancer. If you're a paying subscriber and have access to the pre-show, which is you can only get through the wonderful feed that we give you if you sign up on our Patreon, you will understand a little bit as to what the heck I went through, and it's not an unusual occurrence.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Bigpod,
What?
you know what episode this is?
It is episode 50.
Yeah. And I took a look at my calendar, and we're like a couple days removed from our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah?
Which, if you go back and watch episode 1, the pilot of all pilots, because pilots, we had a host named Steve. He's not joining us today, but Steve is still doing work on Zero Linux. To my understanding, he's no longer living in Lebanon. He's in a new country now. I think he's actually in Greece now.
Really?
Last I heard. I mean, it's been.
Didn't know that. I know he was in Serbia, but I believe he went back.
Ah, okay. Well,
We're gonna investigate.
yeah. Well, honestly, just have to ask him because I haven't spoken with him for a couple months.
Yeah, I've spoken with
But
him
hey,
at the end of last month, but that was more just friendly talk.
yeah. So, I'm going to have a link in the description for the op3.dev website, which I've mentioned before on the show, but they're like a third-party tracker for podcasts, and it's a way that you can see our almost very real analytics without, me having to dig through all these syndicated services and coming up with all these numbers myself that,
Yeah.
I probably would have to do eventually anyway. But let's talk a couple milestones that we've hit here.
But before we do that, I'm gonna tell you a little secret I just found out.
Uh-oh.
It's actually going to be, the day of the upload will be exactly 1 year since the upload of the first episode, audio version.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, because we did the videos late. That's right.
Yes, and our first version was uploaded on a Sunday, the 24th, and this episode will be uploaded on the Monday, 24th March. So exactly 1 year since the upload of first audio version of No Tax Allowed, pilot of all pilots.
Hey. That's cool. Because you got to remember that if you're watching this on YouTube, we used to upload the YouTube videos when we actually remembered to upload the YouTube videos.
Yes, when we felt like it.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And then, since then we've had a refined process. nowadays, the audio episode and the YouTube video both release on the same day, not
Same day,
necessarily the same time.
same time.
but
Now they release
Oh.
12, almost 9 hours apart,
Yep. Because
targeting different audiences.
the idea is that the audio feed, that's for the people driving to work, right?
Yeah.
And the YouTube video feed comes out during like peak usage hours for internet, so it's like 4 p.m. So you come home from a long day at work, the first thing you do is fire up the YouTube app. Hey, there's a new episode of No Talk Aloud. At least that's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about from like a purely American perspective with this too,
Yeah.
because that's where 40 some odd % of our audience is.
And from perspective of other people, neither of them are really great time. Especially for Europe, which is at 11 a.m. and 9 p.m.
I'm sorry. I live in America. So, it's cool to see that we reached that milestone. I really wasn't tracking like the dates, so I guess in the future I'll have to. That way, we can have like big celebration episode, like lots of people joining us and everything. Maybe one of these days. But hey,
Yeah.
So if you didn't listen to like the last 2 episodes, we interviewed a guy by the name of Tamaz Zaman, who very cool guy. I wish I had the chance to talk to him, Bigpod.
Yeah.
And honestly, at this point, I haven't seen the second part of the interview, which I hope I get to see before everybody else, because I just enjoyed that conversation. And I really wanted to nerd out with the guy, just like, let's talk factories. Come on, let's talk like things that that's in my background. Let's do it. I'm like, oh, thanks, work. Okay.
Thanks, factory.
Yep. Thanks, factory. Doing factory things.
At least you're not doing a factory reset on yourself.
That's true. Or, thankfully, I'm not the guy that's editing the show on my M4 Mac.
Thankfully, there is no M4 Max involved here.
Yeah.
Although, if we got one donated, I would happily move my editing workflow onto that. It wouldn't make a difference for me because of software I'm using.
Well, here's the issue with the M4 Mac. Did you know that if you're using a heavy load CPU task on an M4 Mac, it prioritizes that process onto the efficiency cores, not the performance cores?
Really?
Yeah. At least that's what the YouTuber Vadim Yurev found. Who's the guy that runs it's a channel called Max Tech. I haven't watched it, but he found that his M4 MacBook Air was using the 6 efficiency cores, while the performance cores that are on the MacBook were barely even showing any usage at all. And this was with just Lightroom to edit images. This wasn't like the video process or anything like that. But this sounds like a bug.
It might have been due to the fact that he was using MacBook Air, which might be more prone to using efficiency cores due to the fact that MacBook Airs don't actually have active cooling.
I mean, yeah, they don't have the active cooling, but I would expect like a couple of those threads, like the gradients tool, to make use of the performance cores.
Yeah.
And maybe fall to the efficiency cores if for some reason like thermal throttling becomes a thing. But as soon as the system cools back down, just jump right back onto the performance cores. But that's not what it's showing. Instead, as soon as if you're starting from a relatively stable, coolish state, I don't know the term for a passively cooled system on this here, but the lower end of temperatures. As soon as he started a heavy task, it would just not even touch performance cores. It would just go straight to the efficiency cores.
Yeah.
This is where I think that this is a bug.
This probably is either a bug or a very badly selected thing by Apple engineers.
Yeah, but uh, Apple hasn't really commented on this yet. Not really, but this is the MacBook Air is not necessarily like a product for like the media content creator. That's what the MacBook Pro is for.
Yeah.
But it's the same CPU. There's just the difference that one has a fan and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
So people are buying the M4 Max anyway.
Yeah.
So. And when Apple's like setting up like the performance profiles for these systems, of course they're going to, there's probably an engineer somewhere that just decided, you know what, we want to. This isn't a video game process, so we might as well just dump all workloads using like these CPU instructions to just use the more efficient cores. To save battery life. Because, heaven forbid, apparently 24 hours of battery life is more than enough. I wouldn't know, because I'm happy if my laptop lasts more than 6 hours.
Yeah. And I'm okay if my laptop survives like 12 hours. So what?
Yeah. Lighted. My use case for a laptop is not like daily driver status. Like, whenever I'm using a laptop, it's because, I'm not at home. And I don't have a reason to use a computer while I'm at work. And I don't really go anywhere besides work and home. At least currently.
I use as a daily driver a laptop now. Well, and the main thing these days I would say, like, the main drain on the battery is me listening to things before I fall asleep. Which means I put a timer on, and then I put something semi-interesting technical stuff, and I just try to fall asleep as soon as possible.
Yeah.
My tactic to falling asleep.
Hey, if it works for you, it works. So, and honestly, let's just just boot Asahi on this thing if you want if you're actually wanting to do like a heavy CPU workload, because at least there you can modify the kernel to set your priorities correctly. That said, Asahi still isn't quite daily driver status ready, but they're getting there. That's an ambitious project to begin with.
Yeah.
So hey Bigpod.
What?
We have to talk about Windows.
Oh,
well,
really?
Not necessarily have to, but we're going to talk a little bit of Windows. A little bit.
So, tell me, what are we going to talk about?
Well, Microsoft actually fixed an exploit. And there's some interesting discussions behind this exploit, right?
Yeah.
So, we're talking... Yes, this is security news here. We're talking about CVE 2025 24983.
Yeah.
Reported by ESET researcher Philip, however you say that last name.
Philip Yurchatsko would be my best guess. I'm sorry to the probably Slovak researcher if I manage to somehow butcher your Slavic name, which even to a Slavic like me can happen.
Yeah. So it was found that this is the vulnerability that's being used by a piece of malware called Pipe Magic.
Okay.
And this was originally targeting Windows Server 2012 R2 and Windows 8.1, so older versions that are no longer supported, but it's still found to operate with current systems.
Really?
So Windows Server 2016, Windows 10 running Windows 10 build 1809 and earlier, which for some reason people still use.
Yeah.
And the specific vulnerability is called use after free.
So
it's relating to
let me explain it a bit more from program perspective, because I do actually know that stuff. Use after free vulnerability is any type of vulnerability where it's a memory safety vulnerability. So back to the Rust idea is
Yeah.
if you use your memory after you free it, after you say, I don't use this memory anymore, deallocate it. If you then try to use that memory again while it's deallocated, there is nothing there. That becomes a use after free vulnerability, because that kind of access of memory can lead you to something else, and can, if in specific pieces of code, could lead to something like privilege escalation or data corruption or something like that. Which, as far as I understand, in this case, it did lead to a privilege escalation, but it was kind of hard because you had to win a race condition.
Which, honestly, sometimes it's a little bit easier than you think it is to win a race condition when you know, your code is doing one specific task with one specific purpose in mind, compared to, say, Windows.
Yeah.
So, obviously, learning how race conditions operate and everything, a lot of fun, you know, just kind of like read and just learn just how stupid computers are. It's like, hey, I'm going to respond to whichever thing answers first. Yeah. And, of course, I'm sure that there's a Rust Andy going out there. You know, if they just did this in Rust, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yes, well, there is a big rusting right now when, also related to Microsoft, when they yell because Microsoft didn't rewrite TypeScript compiler in Rust, instead they rewrote it in Go.
Of course.
Welcome to Rust, people.
Well, it turns out that Rust just needs a stable release version, you know?
It's not just that, it's also that it's very freaking hard to pick up.
That and, you know, it's still relatively new kid on the block. Yeah. So, anyways, the reason why we're learning about this is because CISA, which is an American branch, they basically ordered, hey, the U.S. government needs to fix everything here by April 1st, and this is not a joke. So, and it wasn't just like this vulnerability; it was a whole series of them, like usual. Yeah. So, like NTFS, information disclosure, FAT file system drivers. And
RCE, NTFS, RCE, and Management Console bypass.
So, you know, the usual suspects in that case.
Yeah, yeah, standard.
Because, you know, it's always that kind of stuff. But hey, this was reported by a guy that works for ESET, which is a Slavic company.
Yes, from Slovak Republic.
Yep. And, you know, it's interesting to see stuff like this fixed every now and then. And realistically, we've already basically just, like, had our entire discussion with the topic. But, you know, every now and then, it's just like, it's a good idea, you know, just poke at it. And, of course, this is available in Windows Update, too, because, you know, we're already past Patch Tuesday. So just update your system and you're fine. Which, if you don't touch the update settings, you're going to get that update anyway.
Unless you're me, because apparently even my new system, that is a VM, that is really made with latest versions of Windows, doesn't want to get updated for some reason. Of course, and I'm really sad because it doesn't want to be updated. And I didn't do anything wrong. Windows hates me when it comes to automatic updates.
Darn. Just write a task that just calls Windows Update to update the system.
Yeah.
There you go. You have your own Windows Update.
That's my standard plan. Yeah. I just update it automatically if it wants to update.
I mean, I have like this test computer that runs Arch Linux that uses a cron job just to run pacman-syu. So, and you know, it's been going strong, lighted its CLI only environment with basically nothing running. I just want to see how long until Arch Linux bricks itself, which it has only done like once, and that was with the Grub update. That happened like last year. But you know, that system's still running relatively okay. So it's basically a Savage thing. Now, Big Pod, we have a heavy topic now, and
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. So, Mark Klein, who formerly worked for AT&T, has passed away. Now,
Who
why
is
is
that?
this significant? Yeah, this is significant because, well, not necessarily like significant because he currently does anything huge, but this was the guy that uh, was the initial whistleblower for NSA mass spying. Now, uh,
Yay.
the
The good old
NSA,
Prism.
yeah, yeah. I don't think Prism was in effect yet. Prism didn't
Yeah.
come till later, but this is the precursor to that.
Yay.
So, anyways, about the so to dive into a little bit of history, sometime between 2005 and 2010, the U.S. government uh passed this act to, you know, increase security in the name of security and national security, and that allowed intelligence agencies such as the NSA, FBI, CIA to run like these monitoring programs. And these were mostly, at first they were mostly intended to just like watch foreign adversaries, which for the most part people have been fine. And let's fast forward a little bit here in this timeline because it turns out that domestic threats are also a thing in the United States. So now we're watching U.S. citizens. If we're watching both sides, why don't we just capture everything?
Yeah.
And of course, as this continued to escalate, it went from Mark Klein to Edward Snowden. And if you don't know who Edward Snowden is, I'm sorry. We're not like a history podcast. We just talk tech things. So you can just Google him, and you can find out really quick as to what he was, because he was an NSA contractor. So, anyways, let's talk about like what Mark reported. Right, he worked at an AT&T data center at one point. This was basically just like a central office in at the data center for AT&T corporate itself. So like this is where AT&T is, and they are one of the largest internet providers here in the United States, or at least at the time. I think they were like the third or fourth largest. They're a bit smaller nowadays, but they were pretty big at the time, and they had a room called 641A.
Yes.
And Mark was the network technician that was responsible for connecting the circuits and wires and splitting the optical lines to this room. And it had an in feed and an out feed. And he was also allowed into that room to install equipment. And he learned relatively quickly that these computers were recording every single packet that processed through that network.
Oh, great NSA.
Yep. Because, if you can't have something in specific, if you record just everything, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So, that's generally how like this program worked. So, and of course, he showed up at the Electronic Frontier Foundation's front door because they're also in San Francisco. And he knocked on the door, and the very first thing he asked him is, "Do you folks care about privacy? Because I've got a story for you."
Yeah.
So, Big Pod, let's try to not be too political about this because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to say about this.
Yeah, it is.
But you got to remember that both left and right side here in the United States has approved this and continue to approve this because they have to recertify this every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how much spying is too much spying, and is it actually a good thing?
Honestly, I don't think too much spying is a good thing, but I am not sure no spying is a good thing either. I know this will be a big question for our viewers, for me to think no spying a bad thing. Well, at the end of the day, the question is about privacy versus security. How much security can they provide without knowing things? And it's a little hard to spy on just those who are threats. So you need to, at least to some level, spy on everybody. But what kind of spying and how much spying, that's the question that should be answered. And I'm not sure I am the right person to answer that question.
Well, I know that I'm definitely not the right person to answer that question, but I do have some opinions, right?
Of course you do.
First of all, this is a U.S. military organization, and now this is
U.S. intelligence organization.
Yeah, this is a known entity of that organization. So that means that obviously, if there is a foreign adversary that is willing enough, they can find this. And ultimately, at the end of the day, security is not necessarily security. Security is just being as inconvenient as possible.
Mm.
That's really how it is.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but okay.
I mean, there comes a point where it's just like security becomes so inconvenient that it is secure. But let me explain this a little bit here. So let's talk about like encryption, right? Encryption is algorithmically generated, and it's possible to revert if you can figure out the algorithm that's used. You can reverse it.
Of course.
That is true with not just RSA 256, but EDCSA, all those other ones that I can't really think off the top of my head. But that's all reversible. It's just a matter of how willing you are to take the time to do it. That's the concern with like higher performance systems, like the quantum computers. Quantum computing is now a thing. Encryption is now dead because these computers can break this encryption in like 5 seconds, where current systems these days can take 30 years.
At least that's what they say. We do not know yet. Nobody has ever built a quantum computer that can actually do that. So we don't even really know if those algorithms actually work.
If they built that quantum computer, they just haven't tried it.
Yes, that's also possible.
That said, we don't really know. Maybe the NSA has a perfectly working quantum computer. Obviously, like all there was a couple tech companies that managed to make one that actually functions.
Yeah.
So maybe the U.S. military just has a secret server room somewhere with a quantum computer inside it that has been working generously for 5 years now.
Possibly.
Or it's not impossible, but it's doubtful, yes, but it's not impossible. So, now, ultimately, like, my biggest fear right now is that because like these services have like all the information, what happens when a vulnerability is actually discovered, and what happens when unauthorized access is obtained? I'm not saying if, I'm saying when, because it's going to happen. We're human beings after all.
Yeah. So for all of you who think that we're not actually that opposite of each other, because I do think that storage of the data is problematic. I don't think that gathering the data and analyzing it is problematic. Problem is that we do not have a system that can analyze the data in real time and after that remove everything, which is what we would need if we wanted to go the route of not breaking civil liberties while at the same time ensuring safety.
Yeah, so it's a concern that I have. And we've seen what happens when like these credit companies leak data. Now what happens when like the NSA leaks data? And of course, there's gonna be somebody out there that's gonna say, "Well, I have nothing to hide." And I'm like, "Well, let me see your bank accounts. Can I see your signature so I can use your signature to write off this check to myself, giving me all your money? Please, you got nothing to hide, right? So let me see this." In fact, I actually had somebody tell that to me once when I brought up the idea of SSL certificates for my local village council because their website for some reason just didn't have one when I first moved here.
Really?
Yeah, and he came up and said it doesn't need to be encrypted. There's nothing to hide. And I'm like, well, let me just intercept. I provided a working example of me intercepting the website traffic, spinning up my own server instead, and presenting fakevillage.com to them, and I did it live in front of the council in a session. And like, this is what that encryption is supposed to prevent.
Yeah.
Lighted, of course, I did ask permission to do this first because I could,
of
technically
course.
speaking, get in trouble for doing something like that.
Of course.
That said, I am by no means a brilliant cybersecurity expert. I just happen to know how to do that at the time. I can't say I know how to do the same thing nowadays, but there's like a 7 to 8 year gap between when I did that and how I am today, and I have not really been practicing those skills.
Yeah.
But like for like this NSA business, it does scare me because yes, a lot of it might just be like metadata. So you spoke to this person at this time, and or say like your smart light turned on and off at this time, or say like your Wi-Fi gives a connection notice between like your phone from when you connect to your home network and when you disconnect from your home network.
Yeah.
And
problem is that data can create patterns.
Yes, patterns. That's what I'm getting to here. In fact, I'm certain that a good portion of the audience has arrived to that conclusion too, because what happens when your smart light bulb on your front door turns on? It's because you showed up home and it's dark. Where were you? Oh, let's check the phone location history.
Yeah, and combining data is another problem. When you have so much data, you can take and correlate different data and get what you were doing or anything else. And that's the problem with the whole privacy versus security, because yes, you need to be mindful of people's privacy, but you also need to understand that at one point people just want to be safe or want to feel safe. Let's say that want to feel safe, want to feel that they won't be attacked going from wherever and stuff like that. But for that, you might need some level of knowledge by the certain types of authorities who can prevent such things to happen.
Yeah, and for like physical world context here, let's talk about airport security. Sure. At least here from like an American TSA perspective, right? That's what's called security theater. They don't actually have proven to be effective.
Yeah.
Because the TSA existed before September 11th of 2001. And they continue to exist after. But the biggest benefit that even the director of the TSA has came out and said is that they exist.
Yeah,
Not
and
necessarily as
sometimes
a
that's
deterrent.
enough.
Yeah, yeah, not
Sometimes that's
necessarily as a
enough.
yeah is and so that's where this comes from. Now, of course, we're talking about like the NSA and basically recording like the past 3 days of all internet traffic across the entire world.
Yeah,
It's a treasure trove. It
yeah.
really is.
If it's used responsibly, there is no problem. Problem is the chance for abuse, and that is where I also stand with the question whether it is good idea to track everybody and track the data if there is a chance for abuse.
Yeah. So it's
So
it's not
just to
it's
say,
not something that
I'm
we
very on defense which side I am on.
yeah. And I've always been kind of shaky about it too because I think that we should kind of care about like some of the things that people are doing,
Yeah,
and it's nice that like say if I call like my call for emergency services, they can find me without me having to tell them specifically where I am because my they have access to the GPS chip on my phone when I call them. That is a nice thing to have because some people say like they get in a car wreck in the middle of fucking nowhere. They
yeah.
don't know where they are. I mean, they could tell you, oh, I'm on County Road 31A. That is like 17 and a half miles long. You're like, that's a long stretch of road to be
Yeah.
tracking, for an emergency situation. But at the same time, it's just like I don't want like I don't want like say a politically motivated attacker
Yeah.
to use that to track me down because I said things that he disagrees with on the internet.
Yeah. That's
That's
another
really it.
question entirely. And it needs to be solved.
Yeah, it needs to be solved, and we need to find like the median on this, right? And
Yeah.
there comes a
Let's
point where
simplify.
yeah,
It's unreasonable to expect them to collect nothing and it's unreasonable for them to expect we will be okay with collecting everything.
yeah,
Now we just need to find the right point where there is enough data collected that certain stuff can be discovered, but not enough to actually pose a huge problem. Because at the end of the day, certain things will always be tracked. You will always leave breadcrumbs, whether it be digital or real ones. And if people know what they're doing, they can collect that stuff because many of those breadcrumbs are actually public. If you know where to look.
yep. So now that we're getting getting people to facepalm, Bigpod, we have a way for people to contact us, right?
Yeah. Email contact@tugspace.com.
Oh, right. You're right about that. And we actually got an email a couple of weeks back, but
Yeah.
from listener Jeff. He told us his choice of browser, and he's since then changed his choice of browser. But hey, you know what? I'm all for some browser hopping every now and then too.
Yeah.
So hey, you know what, Jeff? Thank you for not only telling us your choice of browser, but also for signing up on our Patreon, which you can also find available here. Patreon.com/NoTuxAllowed. and you can join us there. You can help us fund our savage way of running this podcast, because we're not doing this the easy way. We're doing this the self-hosted way. So we're actually paying for this podcast.
And
Did
if
you know
you're
that, Bigpod?
Yeah, I know that. And if you're thinking of starting your own podcast, or you want to move a podcast to another provider, one that you know better than what you currently have, well, shoot us an email at contact@tuxbase.com, and we can talk about that some more.
Yeah. That said, if you're a podcast that's pulling in millions upon millions upon millions of downloads, it's a nice performance test for us, but it should theoretically work.
Yeah. especially if you also pull in a good amount of money.
Yeah. That said, if you're a podcaster or somebody you wanting to start up a podcast, shoot us an email to contact@tuxbase.com. We're willing to talk with you, because I think that it's worked well enough for us this last year.
Yeah.
Like, the only issues that we've really ran into was our own dang fault, because
honestly,
we had an incorrect DNS entry and it caused our SSL certification to expire.
And another one was I misconfigured it.
Yeah,
things that you learn and you can fix it.
It wasn't that.
Then on,
it was.
There had been really no problems, and at one point I should probably do stuff to make it scale better. So if I'm forced by someone else to do it, why not? Better for me.
Yeah. So, and we have a higher uptime percentage than Amazon does right now.
Really?
Yes, because I specifically remember there was a whole day last year where Amazon was down. We haven't been down for an entire day, not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Now, that said, if you also want to sponsor us, same email. Just pipe everything through there. Maybe one of these days we'll have we'll break up the emails a little bit more, but we haven't gotten that far yet. Of course, if you would like to hang out with the community in general, we have a Discord. I have the link in the show notes, because I'm not willing to pay for I'm not willing to pay Discord to come up with discord.gg/notuxallowed. Sorry, I'm not willing to do that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, we've also got these links right here. These are our Fediverse IDs. So from your Mastodons, Pleromas, or your threads, you can reach us directly from there. We've also got our own YouTube channels. Neither of us have really been active. I know that I'm coming up on basically a year since my last video was uploaded.
And I think it's been more than a year since I last uploaded. But I'm making a video. It's already recorded. I just need to edit it, and I'm actually pretty okay with it.
Well,
unlike the last few emails. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, and of course, if you're Tamaz and you run this company called Mono Technologies, hey man, I need a router. So, anyways, guys, that's gonna be for the show. I would be glad to talk with you guys next week for the very first new episode after our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah.
See ya.
It was fortuitous to come on the same date or same it is fortuitous that the episode 50 is also the episode of the anniversary, because of a round number, which also tells us a more shameful statistic. We missed 2 weeks. Goodbye.
There was also holidays. Goodbye.